Good morning, friends. I'm a little late this morning. I intended to be on at 5:30, but yesterday I woke up. I did not feel amazing. So today that's lingering a little bit, and I decided just to take a little more time. But now I am ready to go. We've got my water, I've got my coffee. I'll have a little oatmeal later on. Got to take care of yourself. If you want your body to work for you, you need to help your body. So what I'm going to have a little bit later is it's instant oatmeal, but it's a higher protein oatmeal with whole grains as well, pumpkin seeds and stuff. So that should be delish, and that'll hold me till lunch. I do work my full-time job from home while I am working to build my business. Today I'm working on this beanie. I'm loving the colors. Now, this is sized for an adult, and the pattern does have a ribbed edging, but what I'm going to do is adapt the pattern a bit. I'm going to make the body of the hat a little bit longer and see how it looks, because I did use a smaller hook. I believe this is actually a little bit lighter. Well, it is a size 4, which is the size recommended for the pattern, but I'll see how it goes, because it looks a little small, so I'll need to compare it to some of my other hats. I can also try it on. It's easy to sanitize items if you try them on, but I don't typically try on hats. I also try to discourage that during my shops, because it can be a little off-putting to some people. You don't want to have something turning out looking like it's used from people trying it on. And then when I'm at market, I can't sanitize it. One thing I've learned, because I do resale as well, which I'm getting out of resale. It is fun, but the platforms and the time I have, it's not beneficial to me. I'm trying to build my business with handcrafted goods as well as other types of content. So, but I did learn through my reselling that you can sanitize things with steam. Now, if it's a resale item that has stains and whatnot, it's obviously already a used item, so I can launder it, try to get the stains out. But if it's clean but just needs to be sanitized, you can do that with steam. And I don't know if you've ever accidentally had a burst of steam hit your skin, but it is hot, very hot. I have done that a couple of times while ironing. And actually, it's kind of like I'm ironing and then I hit the steam and I see the steam billowing out. It's like almost addictive. And then you see that crisp fabric that you've just ironed. And I don't typically iron. It's just on occasion when I'm sewing, making a project that needs to have the seam lay down. So, yeah, I'm trying to work hard to gain my followers here, build my brand, and just, present as well for entertainment. So this will be a beanie. It is supposed to be sized for an adult, but depending how it finishes off, I may need to market it as for a young adult or teen. It's not small enough for a child. Alright, so here I am back at the join stitch. So let's do that. I believe if my row count, if I remember my row count from last night, I think I have about 4 more rows on the body, but let's see. About 5 more rows. And then the band is typically going to be 3 rows. So then I'll see what this looks like with 4 more rows. This yarn makes it super easy to count the rows. You can see the color differences very easily. So it's easy to count the rows. So I have 4 more rows or 5 more rows, and then the rows that would be the band. So I will reassess and see what I want to do there. So I do crochet left-handed. I did a challenge last night where my friend and I were on another platform, and she crochets right-handed. So what she did is try to crochet left-handed, and I tried to crochet right-handed. So that was fun. It was very slow, but it didn't turn out terrible. It is a way to really slow your mind down, think about what you're doing. So I started with the base chain. Here's the chain, which you can see there are flaws. But then I made a single crochet, and then a double crochet, and then a half double. You can see a little bit of a difference. But one thing with mindfulness is what if I'm restating it correctly, if you practice doing something with your non-dominant hand, it can help you with your mindfulness to live in the moment. And I can see where that makes sense, because you really have to focus so much on something that has become habit, muscle memory, rote, where it's just, you don't think about it, you just do it. So then if you're attempting to do it with your non-dominant hand, you need to think and focus and concentrate on telling your hand what to do, whether it's something that would be perceived as easy, like brushing your hair or brushing your teeth, or doing something more complex like writing or crocheting. You can have different levels as you practice through that. It seems like when we did it last night, it was feeling like it was a long time period, but it actually wasn't. And then something so simple like how to hold your yarn, how to hold your project, it was actually challenging, because when you're doing something that you are really used to, you don't think about the positioning. So then when you try to do it on the opposite, you don't know how to position it. So I was struggling with, how do I hold my yarn and how do I hold my project? it was so second nature doing it when I did left-handed crochet that I didn't even know in my memory how I held the project and the yarn in order to translate that to my right-handed crochet. So here you see I'm holding the project with my right hand. I have the yarn over my right hand. I knew how I hold my yarn, but I couldn't get my brain to translate that to hold my yarn over my left hand correctly while I held the crochet hook with my right hand. So that was interesting. And then it gives me a perspective and a higher respect for people who are ambidextrous. It makes me wonder and think too, is it easy for them to switch between, or is it a challenge, or maybe they do things differently? Not like a full right or full left-handed person. I'm not sure. But that was an interesting experiment and exercise. Look at that. All the way back around already. I'm just putting another, I just put an extra stitch in here. I know that. But since I'm thinking the hat is sized a little small already, that extra stitch isn't going to be a big deal. You know what I did notice though? There's kind of a gap on some of the rows. So I'm going to go ahead and crochet into that join stitch as well. And again, this is a deviation from the pattern, but as you become more experienced in your crochet, you're able to make the little adaptations and thinking about how it will affect the project. And then you can also realize that, okay, I might be making this modification, so I want to watch and see how it affects it, knowing that I may need to take it out. But since I have made this pattern a few times, I know that one extra stitch here and there isn't going to affect the continuity as I know it from this finished project. So you can see this is Yarn Bee yarn. That is from Hobby Lobby. The color is Purple Multi and the yarn line is Yarn Bee Glowing. This is, let's see what the content is. I'm thinking it's acrylic. It is shiny. Oh, 60-40. So 60% acrylic, 40% polyester. And here is the care and use information. And you can see they have the recommended hook size and needle size. So this 4mm and 5.5 for knitting needles. Now I am using an H hook, and that is a 5mm. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, there we go. That is a 5mm, so it is a size up from the recommended. The thing that, why that matters, when you're making a project, if you're not sure about your tension or your gauge, or you're using a completely different yarn, you're changing your hook size, it needs to be something that is form-fitting or a specific sizing, then you'll want to do a gauge swatch. I literally just did my first gauge swatch after years and years of crochet at the end of 2022. So what the gauge swatch does is it tells you if you have 19 rows and 16 double crochets. So you would start with, I think that's 17 chain with the 4mm hook. Well, this is interesting. It says G6. Oh, yeah, that's right. G6. So you know that the hooks have different, some have only numbers, some have letters and numbers, and some have the actual measurement size. So G6, 4 millimeter, when you do 16 single crochets for, I think that says 19 rows, your swatch should be a 4x4 square. So that will help you figure out your tension and gauge, and maybe even you could use a project that you finished to see, does your finished project match what that gauge swatch says. When I did my gauge swatch, I was pretty spot on. There was a variance of maybe a 1/4 inch. On a huge project, that's going to be a big difference, but on a hat or a blanket, it's not going to be as big of a variance. But if you think, of each 4x4 section of the project, so let's say you have 25 4x4s and you're off by a 1/4 inch, 25 times 1/4 is going to be whatever that is. I don't know. See, 25 times 4, basically, it's going to be a few inches. So that's why you want to pay attention to your gauge swatch and your gauge and your crochet tension and hook size and yarn size. It's just a number of elements. Knowing how the elements come together helps you be successful in your projects. So sometimes, example, I made a amigurumi. I think it was a piece of corn, and the estimate for the project was that it was going to be 5 inches long. Well, I was excited to do it, so I just grabbed a hook, I grabbed some yarn, and I did it. Well, my yarn, or my corn, was almost life size. It wasn't a cute little amigurumi. It did turn out cute, but it was about 8 or 9 inches long and bigger around than what the actual pattern called for, because I had used a bigger hook. The yarn size wasn't so much. It was the bigger hook. So I finished it. I was like, wow, this is really big. And then I thought, oh yeah, you didn't check what hook size to use. So then when I went back and I looked at the hook size, I said, there you go, that's why. So if you're making things for yourself, amigurumi or, little projects like that, it's not a huge deal. But if you're making an item as a commission for somebody, then you're going to want to really pay attention to that. All right, so I think we're coming up on the end of another round. So then after this, I believe I'll need 3 more. Oop. I love these colors. I saw this yarn in the shop and I just had to have it. I did not have any idea what I would make with it. One of the challenges, so this is the first time using this yarn, so you can see it on the skein and it looks amazing, but you're not sure when the color changes will happen. So sometimes if you have something like a stripe or something from Red Heart, the change might happen too infrequently, and if you're making gloves or slippers or something, then it can look like you have a mismatched pair. All right. So I'm trying to reach some goals on the different platforms in order to fall into certain categories, and I'm educating myself on what those requirements are. And actually, I was thinking, I wonder if once you reach the goal, and as you continue, so then you'll reach the next goal, do you stay at that level, or do you need to keep leveling up? I mean, the idea is to keep presenting to my audience, but if I fall back a little, do I fall out of those different tiers? It's all research. So this skein says it is 4 ounces and it's 198 yards. I started with a brand new skein, and I'm looking at the center. I still have quite a bit left. So this will help me determine for future projects how many skeins. I think I'll be able to get 2 beanies from this skein. If I run out, I do have a shiny purple that would make a nice band or a nice few stripes. So that's another option when you're working on projects, to coordinate your yarn so that if you feel like you might not finish, you can incorporate another complementary color. Even on this hat, I could put a stripe in there if I felt like I needed more yarn. So if you're trying to stretch your yarn and you have other colors, you could start and make and then put a stripe and then continue with the original yarn. So I'm just having my coffee, working on this hat. Thanks for coming in. I'm still trying to figure out, how do I know who is in my live? I think unless the person chats, I might see it right when they pop in, but since I'm focused on my project, I wouldn't know unless they chat or later when I'm checking the analytics. So this is a beanie that I'm working on. I am left-handed. I crochet left-handed, and I learned when I was a little kid. My dad was left-handed, so he taught me how to crochet. And this project I'm using Yarn Bee Glowing, and this is Purple Multi is the color. The skein is 198 yards, and the size is 4, and it is 80% acrylic, 40% polyester. So it's going to be machine washable. I always recommend machine wash and hang to dry, or hand wash and hang to dry. A lot of washing machines do have a gentle cycle, so sometimes with my own personal handcrafted items, if I know the fabric content is synthetic, I'll usually put it into like a lingerie bag to protect it in case there's anything in that laundry that has snags or hooks or something. I try to separate it, but sometimes the best laid plans go awry. So washing on gentle in a lingerie bag, or washing by hand and then hang to dry. Another option, because sometimes when I do hand wash, it leaves a lot of water. So some washing machines also have a rinse and spin or drain and spin. You could use the drain and spin after you do your hand washing. And again, in a lingerie bag or similar. And then that way your item doesn't get distorted or stretched. It'll stay within that zone of the lingerie bag. And then hang to dry or lay flat to dry actually is best. So this yarn is from Hobby Lobby. I've had it for a while because I saw it and I had to buy it. I didn't know what I was going to make. And then I thought, you know what, this beanie will be perfect because it's a pattern that can be more sophisticated with a solid, rich colored yarn, or more whimsical and fun with this type of yarn. So this yarn is an acrylic polyester blend, and that is why it has this kind of shine to it. I don't know if the shine is showing on camera, but you can also see that there are two strands spun together. So each length coming out of the skein has different colors, or has the two colors spun together already. I think this might be my last round before the brim or the band, so let me check that. Oh no, two more. So what I was saying earlier too is that this yarn, you can easily see the rows because of the different colors. And I'm probably going to modify this pattern so that I make the body of the hat longer and not really have a dedicated brim or band. But I can try it on when I'm getting close to the end, and then easily sanitize it. You know, it's easy to sanitize any garments using a steamer. That way you don't have to put it through the washing machine or anything, but it is still sanitized and ready for customers. I do not typically try on things because I want the customer to just have it brand new out from the skein, fresh yarn. But if I'm making a modification on this hat, I want to try it on and make sure that it is going to fit an adult. The pattern is sized for one size fits most adults, but we all know everybody has a different head size. The pattern suggested a 5.5 hook. The yarn calls for a 4.0 hook. So, with those two different aspects, I want to make sure that the appearance of the hat compared to the actual fit is appropriate for an adult. So in order to do that, I would like to try it on. Of course, there's another risk in trying it on. If I love it, I might have to keep it. Which the goal is not to make myself a stash of beanies. The goal is to make and sell the beanies. So you see I do have my shop name here, and then I also have a link in my bio where you can check out all the different things that I have made. I've recently been adding new inventory, including a few different beanies. They may be similar pattern, but different yarn. And one of the ones that I've recently added, which I totally love, are puff stitch beanies. And those beanies have an opening at the top so that if you wear a ponytail or a bun then it can accommodate that. Let me see. Yes, I have one here that is listed. So you can see this has a ribbed band, and then it has the puff stitch. This is a deep red. One thing to remember, every camera, every device that you're filming with or viewing through can have color variations. So this is a deep red. I try to do my best with my photography and my descriptions so that the customer is aware of what they're getting. I don't want somebody to get something and then they think it's a completely different color. So if you're trying to color match an outfit or something, that can be a little bit tricky, but this is a deep red, and this is currently listed in my shop, and you can see it has a hole, so you can put your bun or your ponytail through there. So this particular pattern, the puff, I'm not sure. I'm thinking I'll do some market research and see if this puff stitch is appealing to somebody that prefers a more masculine look, and then have a more masculine excuse me, color of yarn, and do that hole as well, because you know guys are doing those top notches or ponytails too. So I wonder. And then I also have, this is a newer one that I've listed as well. This was created using 2 strands of yarn. The top portion is the starting color that was on the cake of yarn, and you can see it transitions to a little bit darker, kind of like teal green, and then darker still. It's barely noticeable. But then I use 2 strands, so I have the cake, which is here, and then I use the black yarn alongside. So that is listed in my shop. And then I have, I don't recall if I listed the Valentine's one or not, but I do have this gray ombre as well. And this too has a ribbed band, so it's stretchy. It's a little bit longer, so if you have thicker hair or you wanted to have a bun or a ponytail but you have it inside, then you know it can accommodate that, and it does stretch a bit. So that's what I've been working on. I am going to also be ramping up for markets, but probably not during 2023 because I have some business plans that I need to work on. So probably I'm going to be just working on online sales with a market in 2024. But feel free to take a look at my website, because I do create using machine embroidery, sewing, and crochet. So if you're interested in handcrafted items, you will see a large variety in my shop. Excuse me. And when navigating, be sure to check all the drop downs. There are key fobs and backpack charms. They're great for clipping onto your purse too, for a little style, fun, and expression. And then there are chapstick holders that are great inside your backpack. They help you hold your chapstick in one spot, so that, or lip balm, I have to use the word lip balm, so that you're not digging in the bottom of your purse or your backpack for your lip balm. I also have kitchen towels and kitchen scarves. Kitchen scarves are great for somebody who's a cook. It's a length of fabric with a towel on each end, and you wear it across the back of your neck. So the fabric portion is resting on the back of your neck, and the towel portion is like down in front of you at your waist. So while you're cooking or doing dishes or whatever in the kitchen, you have a towel right there to grab and, wipe off your hands, drying your hands after you wash your hands or stuff like that. So this hat is going pretty quickly. I do have a full-time job while I am ramping up this business. So, just over here trying to get some traction, but also presenting for you guys so that you can see how yarn and a hook can transition into a wearable item. Pretty cool, huh? Crochet is pretty easy. The challenging part is listening and following the pattern, knowing the different stitches, which each stitch in its own self is pretty easy. And then as you learn the new stitches, you're building on to your knowledge and incorporating the different stitches into your projects. And then just, different ways you execute the stitches make different effects in your project. So it is a pretty quiet hobby, as you can tell. There's some people get squeaking when they're crocheting. I believe that's typically if you have a tighter tension. I don't usually have any squeaking when I'm working on my projects. So if you're new, feel free to give me a follow. And anyone that follows me, I try to follow back because I do love to watch different creators and see what they're making. That could be music. It could be just conversation, drawing, writing, gaming. I am open-minded and curious about everything. I was trying to do business research the other day and learning Twitch, and I went on and I found some incredible creators. So then I spent some of my research time just watching them and being mesmerized by their talent. So that's a challenge, but it's also amazing to see people brave enough to put themselves out there, to show people their craft, take a chance. And I'm learning that is not easy for some people. I used to be so shy. Like in grade school, middle school, even high school, I didn't really want to approach anybody, talk to new people. I honestly wonder, how did I become connected with people during that time of my life? Because I had friend groups and stuff. I had friends, but I don't ever know how the engagement started, you know what I mean? So it's interesting for me to watch other creators and see their bravery. I was watching a musician playing electric guitar. That was amazing. I was watching a gentleman doing woodworking. Learned a lot about using a lathe and the different types of wood and wet wood and dry wood, and it's just fascinating. And then I was on last night with a young lady who was crocheting, asking a few questions, super helpful, super friendly, giving tips on how to go live and what different third-party apps to use, because a friend of mine and I want to do a collab where we're presenting together while we're also working on our own stuff. So that young lady was kind enough to let us know what app would be helpful for that. So it's great to get feedback and then have a starting point to do a deeper dive on your own research. So I know people make fun of screen time and why are the kids on YouTube or whatever. But honestly, over the past 3-4 years, everything in moderation, but you can learn a lot, especially during the lockdown and everything. That was an opportunity for people to really learn a lot, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. It's a time where you could invest in yourself, learning a lot from other people. So that was a positive that came out of that for me. Look at this color. Isn't that amazing? So I'm going to go ahead and end right there. Hopefully you give me a follow. I'm still learning about Twitch, of course. Always, I think there might be a messaging function. I'm not even sure. But I do have an email address. If you have any tips or feedback, I appreciate that as well. And thank you so much. You guys have a great day.